Today I'm showing you a day in the life of what I eat during my luteal phase, and it might actually surprise you. Yes, I'm a clinical nutritionist, but I do not spend my week making elaborate hormone-friendly recipes. The reason I've never filmed one of these videos before is because the way I eat is very simple, repetitive, and kind of lazy. But after working with so many women who feel like eating well has to take over their entire life, I've realized that simple might actually be the strategy. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through my very realistic, lazy girl approach to luteal phase eating. By the way, if we haven't met yet, I'm Jess. I'm a clinical nutritionist, but the disclaimer is that I'm not your nutritionist, so this is not medical advice or me telling you exactly what to eat. This is just a realistic look at how I eat to support my energy and mood during my luteal phase when everything can feel a little harder. To be honest, one of my more controversial opinions as a nutritionist is that I think a lot of people spend way too much mental energy thinking about what to eat. What I'm hoping will be helpful about this video is less about the specific foods and more about the systems underneath. So let's get started. The first thing is coffee. Okay, first things first, coffee. Yes, I'm a coffee drinker. I've gone through phases of my life where I give it up for various reasons, but right now it is in fact part of my life. I do loosely follow the caffeine delay strategy, which is where you don't drink coffee or caffeine in the first 60 to 90 to 100 minutes upon waking, which is why I usually get ready first, feed Chandler, those things take a while, and then make my coffee, or honestly, my husband makes coffee most mornings. If I know that I'm not gonna eat breakfast for a while, I'll have a little something first, like some nuts or a bar. But if I'm eating within an hour, then I'll make this first and then work on breakfast after that. And because I'm pretty sensitive to caffeine, I try and have the same amount, or exactly the same amount, every single day. This cup is basically my dose. I have 1 cup, some nut pod, and that's it. I used to add collagen to it almost every single day too, but I ran out and then I kind of forgot, which is very on brand for this video. I do think that honestly, I feel better when there's collagen in there, so maybe I should get some more soon. So that's coffee. Now let's move on to the first real meal, which is breakfast. All right, breakfast. This is where my first lazy rule comes in, which is I repeat meals because decisions are expensive. And when I say expensive, I mean mentally expensive. Breakfast is one of the easiest places to simplify because it sets the tone for the day, but it's also the meal where a lot of people either undereat, overthink, or skip because they don't know what to make. Even though I absolutely believe in food diversity, I also think that there are seasons of life where you just need a few meals that work and you put them on repeat. That does not mean that you eat the exact same foods forever. It just means that you reduce decision fatigue in the areas where food normally feels the hardest. And I've found that for a lot of people, that area is breakfast. So right now I basically have 2 breakfasts on repeat. I either eat chia seed pudding or I'll do a savory breakfast with eggs, chicken, sausage, and fruit. If you've watched some of my other breakfast videos, you know I'm a huge fan of chia pudding. I like chia pudding because it has a lot of fiber, it keeps me full, and I can make it in a way where I'm getting enough protein and fat. So I usually make mine with protein powder, nut butter, and then maybe some fruit on top. A few days out of the week, we'll do a savory breakfast instead, where my husband makes eggs, chicken sausage, and we'll usually have that with some kind of fruit. I'm sure I have some B-roll of that we can insert right here. And one of my lazy breakfast insights is that I do not force myself to eat vegetables at breakfast. I get plenty of vegetables the rest of the day, and I'm also one of those people who is not super hungry in the morning. Really big meals just don't sound that great to me first thing. Sometimes we'll mix leftovers into the eggs if we have something with vegetables from dinner the night before, and I do like that. But otherwise, breakfast is where I mostly focus on getting protein and fat and enough food to start my day without feeling weighed down. I don't want breakfast to be super carb heavy because I want something that gives me steady energy and helps me feel mentally clear in the morning. You're gonna see here that the amount of pudding that I eat is really different from the amount of pudding that Ian eats, which I wanted to show you the example and comparison between our two meals throughout the day, because it's also an example of how you can take a meal and yet still increase it to someone's caloric needs or adjust it based upon your needs and circumstance.
Hey Chan, you ready to go for a walk? We're gonna go outside, get our circadian rhythm going.
Chan, you ready?
Chan, you wanna go on a walk? Time to walk?
Come on, come on. Okay, Chandler. Okay, let's go. Okay, I also want to give a disclaimer for the rest of the video that I am filming this on a weekend day. However, this is exactly what I eat during a work day as well. I just would not be able to film it at all during a work day. And it being the weekend, you get to see us go for a nice stroll around the neighborhood instead of just me staring at my computer. Okay, lunchtime, and this is where my second lazy rule comes in: use formulas, not recipes. I have a salad for lunch almost every single day, and I have been for years. But the thing about salads and dinners as well, which you'll see later, is that they're more of a canvas than a specific recipe. The formula for salad is fat, fiber, protein, and maybe a little bit of crunch. So the canvas stays the same, but the ingredients that you're putting in there may change on a daily basis, or what I normally do is on a weekly basis. So one week I might have a certain type of leafy green. Today this is mixed greens. Another week I might choose arugula or something else. One week I might have chicken as a protein, where we've prepared or bought a rotisserie chicken that we just shred. Another week it might be canned fish like salmon or tuna. And then there's always the different toppings. Like, I definitely have a rotation of things that I like, but you know, I'll choose the fruit, like today's apple, based on the season. And then I do the seeds based on where I'm at in my cycle. So right now I'm in the luteal phase, so of course I'm doing sunflower seeds. Salads take about 5 minutes or less to prepare. It's really about buying all the things. And you can get as lazy with this as you want. You can buy things like pre-cut shredded carrots, greens that are ready to go, and even meat that is ready to throw on top. It's really just a matter of assembly. My salad. Ian salad. So speaking of lazy, I kind of want to talk about the idea of lazy for a second. If you notice this video being framed around lazy girl eating, hopefully you can tell I don't mean that in a negative way. When I say lazy girl eating, I don't mean careless. I care a lot about the outcome, but I'm not trying to make the process harder than it needs to be. If an outcome isn't what I want, then sure, that's where more effort might be required. But I think we've been taught that healthy eating automatically comes with a lot of friction. And while that is a very real experience for a lot of people, I also know it's possible for someone to be on an incredibly strict diet and still make it relatively low friction. Because so much of this comes down to mindset, systems, routines, and your relationship with food. food used to have a lot of friction for me. I used to feel like it was this full-time job where I had to think about every meal, plan everything perfectly, and constantly figure out what I was going to eat. And eventually, I just figured out a few things that work. They probably won't work forever. At some point, I'll have to change them, but for right now and this season of my life, they work. And like many of you, I have a lot going on. I have a full-time clinical job. I make YouTube videos outside of that. So time and mental energy are two of the most precious things to me. So in this area of my life, ease is a priority. Okay, so it's afternoon now, and this is where lazy rule number 3 comes in, which is make hydration easy. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not one of those people who naturally drinks a ton of water throughout the day. I'm more naturally a camel. So in my luteal phase, I try and make hydration as easy and appealing as possible. For me, that usually means electrolytes, bubbly water, or making something fun like my fatigue fighter formula that has electrolytes and creatine in it, which also gives me an energy boost, another motivator for me to drink it. And this is kind of lazy because at the end of the day, if I haven't been drinking a lot of water, having something like this at least helps bridge the gap a little bit. So hydration becomes less about making sure I'm chugging a certain volume of water all day and more about getting in some minerals and electrolytes to make sure I am maintaining hydration status. Delicious. Kind of around the same time, I may also have an afternoon snack. I'm gonna be honest, I'm normally not much of a snacker. I really like meals. I like meals that are balanced, satisfying, and calorically dense enough that I don't need to think about food again until the next meal time. But if you didn't know this, during the luteal phase, women can have an increased energy expenditure and generally feel hungrier. Depending upon the person, that might be somewhere around 100 to 300 extra calories a day. So this is where lazy rule number 4 comes in. Eat more when your body asks for more. In my luteal phase, I'll usually find myself either craving something a little more in the afternoon, or because I'm aware of the increased caloric need, I'll preemptively have a snack to bridge the gap between lunch and dinner, especially if I'm going to go work out after work. This looks a little different day to day, but some of the snacks we normally have on hand are macadamia nuts, beef sticks, paleo bars, or something quick like that. And most afternoons, I also have chocolate chips. I love chocolate chips as a little afternoon sweet treat. It's not really a whole dessert moment, but something that I do most days to give myself a little dopamine boost that either helps get me through the workday or I still enjoy on the weekend too. That's it. Okay, so now we're at dinner. And dinner is similar to lunch in the sense that it's a formula, not a recipe. Dinner is really protein, vegetables, and some kind of vehicle. By vehicle, I normally mean some kind of carbohydrate source. So the vehicle is whatever you're putting the protein and veggies on. Sometimes this is like a sweet potato or potatoes. We make them into fries. You can bake them in advance. Sometimes these are like taco shells where we're gonna take the stir fry that we're making tonight and basically just put that in a taco shell instead of on top of potatoes. But the real lazy girl rule at dinner is that if I'm cooking, I want future me to benefit from that effort too. Lazy rule number 5 is make dinner once, let it feed you several times again. I'm gonna be real with you. Breakfast and lunch don't even really feel like cooking to me, or I don't consider them cooking. Breakfast is normally something I already know how to throw together, and lunch is usually a salad that takes 5 minutes and once again is more about assembly. So dinner is normally the only meal where I'm actually turning on the stove, chopping things, using pans, or what I would refer to as cooking. When I lived alone, I would literally make one giant cast iron skillet meal or a cast iron skillet stir fry and eat it for like 3 to 4 days. Now that I live with someone who eats 3 to 4 times the amount that I do, stir fries don't make it that far, but I normally at least make enough to last us 2 dinners as opposed to 1. So that could end up looking like making a stir fry every other night. We do also make soups and stews where we'll make a big giant Instapot crock pot full, and that will last us both almost a whole week of dinner meals. But the point is that I'm not really much of a meal prepper. I just ask myself every time I cook dinner if I can do it in a way where it either makes tomorrow or the rest of the week easier. And to me, that's what's really at the heart of lazy girl eating. Having intention and even strategies to follow, hopefully without getting too lost in the weeds. And if you enjoyed this video, I would check out this video right up here on how I hit 100 grams of protein every day without even trying. So hopefully I'll see you in that one.